Back again this week with Parenting Pause. This is Leslie Potter. And if you're just joining here at Purejoy, check out the website at purejoyparenting.com. And there's a lot of free resources over there, especially the Safe Seat process, which is the foundational process that we use in Purejoy to work with ourselves, our own emotional regulation, so that we don't project that onto our children. So today we're going to talk a little bit about one of the hottest topics that come my way with parents is limiting computer use, or limiting our children from eating sugar, or limiting our children from doing anything that we feel is not good for them. Now, I have a very, very different take on this. So take it if it works for you. If it doesn't, hey, do what works. You know, mine all comes from my own experience of working with my daughter and making a decision very early on that I was very interested in her knowing herself. I was very interested in her learning her self-regulation, her self-limits, more than me being the one outside that was limiting her. So I came on that just from my own experience of being limited a lot as a child, and then how much resistance came up in that, and how I wasn't able often to find my limits inside. I was always looking outside for something to come up against to resist. So as I really looked at that, dug deep inside, I saw that I had never really been supported in understanding the limits that worked for me, the limits that were good for my body, that was good for my being, that was good for my regulation. I was always being told what to do, when to do, how to do it as a child to fit into the culture, fit into the conditioning to make my parents happy and everyone outside happy, which I was really good at, and you might be too. I became a people pleaser, but inside I had this really strong resistance. So I was saying yes, but I really meant no a lot of times. So I had to get really sneaky with my empowerment and pretend like I was going to do what others asked me to do and follow what they asked, and yet sneakily I would go off and do my own thing. Now, I find this so much with the preteens and teenagers. They may look like they're doing what you ask them to do when you limit them. But let me tell you, often they will be sneaking off to somebody else's house where they can do exactly what they want to do. And they'll smile and tell you they're not doing it, but then they're going to go do it anyway if it's a high value for them. So when I started recognizing this, I thought, well, how do I support my daughter in understanding her limits? Because, of course, just like you, I got very triggered, especially around computers. And that is such a big one right now. We're so worried about our children's computer use and what it's doing to their brain and what it's doing to their social. And I'm not saying it's not. The way I work with things is to come about it very different. I work with my emotional triggers around that to begin with. So that is where I started using the safe seat, because my daughter and I could be sitting across from each other. We would both be on our computers, having a really good time, enjoying ourselves. And then I would notice at some point, I would hear this voice inside that would start telling me that, oh, been on too long. Oh, this is bad. She's going to get addicted. There's something wrong. And then I would notice a real deep constriction inside myself. And then I would hear this voice that would say, you need to go limit her. As soon as I moved into that stance, telling myself it was good for her, telling myself I should, you can imagine from a constricted state, I went and tried to limit my daughter, which never really worked out. Fortunately for me, she wasn't really available or welcome, or wasn't going to be a people pleaser, I'll put it that way. So what I learned was if I could work with myself and really open up, of course, I did the safe seat where I go, of course, I was scared about the computer use. And of course, she was on it too much, I thought. And of course, I didn't know what to do. And of course, I wanted to limit her and bind her and get her to stop so that I could feel better. Of course, all of these things happened. And yet, when I was able to finally come back into my adult capacity and recognize that my daughter's computer use wasn't about me, then as an adult, I could come alongside her and begin to support her in self-regulation. Now, you're probably going to ask, what does that look like? And you're going to have to wait till next week because I'm going to give you some of the deets. So come on back next week. I'll give you details of what that looks like to support your children in self-regulation, to support them in practicing that self-regulation, and how you can come alongside your child, put your hand in their back, and really be there with them instead of projecting your fear, your limits, all of the things that you think you need to do that are good for them, but they're actually good for you. All right, everyone, have a great week this week. Make sure you go over to purejoyparenting.com. You can download the free 5-day safe seat process. And again, we'll be working next week with the practicals. All right, have a great one. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Pure Joy message out. Come on over to the Pure Joy Parenting Practice Facebook page or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Pure Joy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Pure Joy work.